For me, there were two bands that stood out, Motley Hoople and Nazareth.
Yep.
Those were the two bands that stood out to me as being something that I really wanted to listen to. I don't think I actually knew why. The first time I heard This Flight Tonight, I just thought, I don't know what it is about this track, but there's just something about this song that I just love. It's been a lifelong thing.
It's just weird how you fall for something, but I think it's, and I asked actually Manny about this, obviously having played with Manny for a long time. I asked him that exact question. I said, well, what was it that sort of, can you point your finger at what that was? Because obviously as a fan, I really liked it, but did you ever sort of uncover that sort of magic jar of, secrets, what made this? If he had that sort of magic formula, you could go back and recreate it, kind of thing. But it's just a point in time that everything sort of flowed together, I think, and it's just by chance some of these things sort of come out. But obviously music is different now than it has been, because like everybody can record whatever really. Yeah. But back in that time, you had to have a certain talent to be signed. That was one thing. And then once you had that, you kind of got, some money behind you to try to make it. And Nazareth at the time, they were on their last legs, as it were, when Roger Glover came in. They were on the third and final album.
Yeah.
And the record contract was stopping. If you haven't made it by the third album, you're out. You know? So they had like one album to go, and they tried to get Jimmy Page in to produce it. But then they knew of Deep Purple, because I think they toured together actually, or they played together in Scotland.
That's right. I think Nazareth opened for Deep Purple on one of the early tours, didn't they?
They did, yeah. They so they kind of took them under the wing. So they selected Roger Glover, and then the rest is history, kind of thing, because it's just happened. And actually, I got some amazing footage just yesterday from Manuel Escudero, which is the lead singer of the Manny Charlton band.
Yeah.
He's been in contact with Roger Glover for that concert in Spain. Unfortunately, Roger couldn't make it because he was touring at the time. But anyway, so Roger sent him some footage of Manny and Roger sitting behind the console and the mobile studio up in Scotland when they recorded Broken Down Angel and all those hits from the first. And it's never been. I have never seen it. I can send it to you after the show.
I'd love to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. It's just to sit and watch Manny at the time, just having a cup of tea with Roger Glover in the studio.
Oh, that is so cool.
Priceless. Yeah, that's pretty funky stuff. Yeah.
Oh wow. Well, so shall we talk about the Nazareth stuff first then, seeing as we're already in that direction and sort of work backwards, I guess?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I'm happy either way,
I mean, we're going to cover everything, so it doesn't really matter what order we do it in.
It makes sense to try to structure it a bit, I guess, for sure.
Yeah, so the Nazareth tracks, the Manny Charlton Memorial Concert Selection.
Bit preface on that, so it's not actually the songs we played in the concert, but it has some really good relevance to that, and also it's obviously some stories to go along with all of those tracks, really.
I'm so looking forward to hearing this. So over to you. The first one is Just to Get Into It.
Yeah, actually, the title is very apt for me, because that was the first song I heard from Nazareth.
Oh, right. Okay.
So for me, it has sort of a significance from that angle. My brother was into Nazareth actually before I was, because they were older, and they came back with that album. I think that's the opening track on the No Means City album from 1979,
Yeah. And
the thing about that song is like everything on it to me is like perfect. It's just the vocals are menacing, it's soaring vocals.
Yeah.
The guitars are just ferocious. It's sort of the whole package there. It's like we talked about earlier. It's just insane.
I always loved Dan's voice on that. I remember seeing them, and he looked so scary. When I saw them, I was right at the front, right in front of him. And this was back in 2004, and I got a camera. And there's one of the pictures where I had taken the camera, and I was pointing right, and he's looking right at me. And it scared me to death, it did. But his voice on that, it could sound so menacing and just sort of cut through, and it was absolutely marvellous.
I met Dan once, and it was after a gig. I think like everybody was trying to get him a drink.
Yeah,
There was
yeah.
a bar somewhere, and then I said, "Well, Dan, do you want to drink here? Can I buy something?" And I was like, "No, you may not." Because it was so many people who wanted to buy him a drink after the show. It's obviously like a funny guy to go with it, but his voice when he started to sing is just
amazing, wasn't it? Yeah.
So I thought I select that because it's really the first song I sort of got into. I was a fan thereafter. As you do when you discover new music, you tend to then go backwards to see where did this come from, right? How come they ended up at that sort of level? Because you kind of wonder, it's like there must be some story to this, because you can hear it, you can feel it, kind of thing.
Yeah. I do exactly the same thing.
And I always fascinated me. So actually much later when I got to know Manny, he tell me sort of snippets, and snippets I got from him, but as a sort of fan as well, I kind of knew other stories as well. Like, so for example, on that particular album, they had Sal Clemenson.
Yes.
From the sensational Alex Harvey band. He was obviously an insanely talented guitarist. And at the time, he was driving a taxi, Manny said. And it was actually Manny's idea to invite him.
Really?
Because obviously, as a musician, like money tends to come in now and then. And I think Alex Harvey as well, but once the concerts dried up with Alex Harvey and that, he had to, feed his family, and to provide money, he started driving a taxi in London.
Wow.
Yeah, and Manny heard about that, so he says, well, okay, it's a crying shame that this guitarist is driving a taxi. So he invited them down to the studio they were recording Isle of Man, I think it was, for tax reasons. So he flew them out there, and then I think Sal ended up writing with Manny and the team for that album as well. So he has like a couple of songs on there that he's sort of the main driver for.
Yes.
But that sort of twin guitar, that was just insane.
It was. On that No Mean City album, the sound that they get is, particularly on tracks like Simple Solution and No Mean City, the sound is amazing. I love the sound of that album.
Yeah. No, and I think at that point as well, Manny was saying this to me. What you have to realize is, like, Manny really made his name on the Hair of the Dog album. Yes. That was his first album he produced.
Yeah.
Took over after Roger Glover, and then I think he made a couple of more albums. Like after that, but at the time, Manny was in the studio all the time, because not only was he produced Nazareth, he produced Street Heart from Canada, Jingle de Lunch, I think they were called. There was another band, and these albums that he produced, at the time they did also quite well. They had like gold records of their own. I saw them in the studio. In Canada, for example. But by 1979, he was really, really rocking it as a producer, and he knew how to get those sounds out of the desk,
Yeah.
So he kind of had learned his tricks. So I think on that thing, Manny was so, in one way, overworked. And that's also part of the reason why he wanted somebody else in on the guitar to help him out. But obviously it worked wonders in sort of the creative department and everything else.
Right, yeah.
It's a shame that sort of partnership didn't last. But I think what it was is, like, Nazareth was obviously a four-piece. They already had a company. Yeah. And then when they brought Sal back to do, I think it was the Full Circle album.
Full Circle, yeah.
After Malice in Wonderland. They started to write for that, and Sal kind of then understood as, okay, I need to do something else than just be on a salary for the rest of my days. I need to do my own thing. So he started then another project, Yeah. So he concentrated on. But that was a bit sort of a shame, I think, that they didn't manage to keep that group together longer.
It would have been interesting to see how it would have evolved, because I think it was a very interesting sound. And the combination, because they had different styles of playing as well, different sounds.
Yeah.
And it kind of just went together. Sal had a very distinct guitar sound.
Exactly, and my feeling is that Sal was the technically better guitarist of the two. But Manny by miles had the better sort of feel and touch and sort of soul kind of thing. He kind of knew, you know, and because he also wrote the songs, he kind of, when you hear a Nazareth song, you kind of hear like the guitar goes perfectly with that sort of thing.
Yes.
You know, it's just made for it. You know.
Yeah, you're right, definitely.